Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we take your supplied research, your articles, all that learning material, and we distill it into something you can actually use. Actionable, crystal clear knowledge.
And today we are tackling uh, probably the single most common professional conversation starter there is.
How to talk about your job.
Exactly. It sounds so simple, right?
Mhm.
But moving beyond just, I'm a nurse or I'm an accountant into a description that's specific and confident and engaging,
Yeah.
that takes a bit of strategy.
Right. And it's a universal skill. Doesn't matter if you're a student prepping for an interview or you've been a professional for years and you just want to be clearer when you're networking.
Mm.
So that's our goal. We want to equip you with the vocabulary, the structure to really craft your perfect, say, 30-second professional pitch in English. We're moving beyond just grammar today and focusing on the strategy.
Yeah, the strategy of choosing the right words, how to describe what you do, what your typical day looks like, and maybe most importantly, what actually motivates you.
We've broken down all the key learning guides to show you not just what phrases to use, but when they're most effective.
Think of it as a shortcut to mastering the conversational currency of professional life.
Okay, let's unpack this. Let's start with the absolute foundation, answering that core question. So what do you do for work?
Right. And the frameworks we looked at, they all suggest this kind of dual response strategy from the very beginning.
Okay, so what's the first part of that?
The first is the simple one, the quick identifier. Just, I'm a Job.
I'm a pilot. I'm a firefighter.
Exactly. For really informal settings, or if your job is something everyone immediately understands, this is fine. It's efficient.
But the moment you want to be taken seriously, or if your job title is even a little ambiguous, that simple answer can just be a conversational dead end.
It really can.
Yeah.
And that's where the specific answer comes in. So instead of just the title, you provide context, the where and the what.
Okay, so let's use that graphic designer example from the materials. It's a great one.
It is. If they just say, I'm a graphic designer, I mean, what does that even mean? The listener might assume anything from a freelancer working at home to, creative director at a huge agency.
So strategically, you need to inject that detail right away. You move from I'm a graphic designer to something like I work as a graphic designer for a mid-sized marketing agency.
Right. And that immediately anchors it. It tells the listener about your seniority, or at least the kind of environment you work in.
Or you could focus on the output instead, right?
Yes. Like, I design websites and logos specifically within the tech startup space. The insight here isn't just that adding detail is clearer. I mean, that's obvious.
Yeah.
The real takeaway is that this context is like conversational currency. Giving the where or the what instantly manages the other person's expectations, and it shows you have strategic intent.
That's a great point. But I know some people think that using like really technical jargon or these vague fancy titles makes them sound smarter. Did the sources talk about that?
Oh, they absolutely did, and they warn against it. The guides say to avoid jargon unless you are 100% certain the listener shares that vocabulary.
Like the teacher example.
Yes, exactly. The teacher could say, I manage second language acquisition protocols in a tertiary education environment.
Which is, I mean, it's technically accurate.
Totally accurate, but it's just so unnecessarily complex. And it forces the listener to stop and say, wait, what does that actually mean?
Right. And then you've lost all the momentum.
Precisely. The goal in that first exchange is just clarity, efficiency. So the better strategy for the teacher is just, I teach English to adult students at a language school. Simple.
Or even more specific, like, I specialize in test preparation for IELTS candidates.
Yes. That clarity serves you so much better than the complexity. It tells the listener whether they should follow up with a logistical question, where's your school? Or a technical one, like what's the biggest challenge in test prep?
So once you've established that, we move from the what's to the how, structuring the day. The next natural question is always, so what's your typical day like at work?
And this is where we really need to deploy specific, active verbs, and structure the information chronologically. This is so important.
Let's go back to the teacher's routine because it's such a clear example of that sequential action.
hmm The day is defined by blocks of time. The teacher wakes up around 6, gets ready, heads to the school.
Right. And her first class starts at 8. She'll teach maybe 3 lessons before lunch.
Then in the afternoon, she might meet with other teachers to plan lessons for the next week. It's all action. Wake up, get ready, head to, start, teach, meet, plan.
Okay, now let's compare that to the graphic designer. Their verb choices are going to be totally different, right? They'll reflect more creation and collaboration.
Yeah, so their day starts around 9. They get to the office. First thing, they check their emails from clients.
Then they actually start working on the main design projects for the day.
And a really critical afternoon activity for them is having meetings with clients to discuss new ideas or maybe present a finished draft.
So the verbs are completely different. Planning lessons versus presenting drafts. But the structure, that chronological flow, is identical.
And we can push this even further. Let's take a third job, one that's really different, like a remote software developer. Their verbs are going to be way more technical.
Okay, so a developer might start with, the first thing I do is participate in our daily team stand-up meeting at 9:30.
Right. Followed by, then I allocate my morning to debugging code issues or integrating new features.
And then in the afternoon.
In the afternoon, I collaborate with the product team to define new requirements, and then I document my technical progress.
That's such a fantastic contrast. You're using verbs like participate, allocate, debug, integrate, collaborate, document. I mean, they're much more sophisticated.
They are, and they paint a picture of highly specialized work, but you're still using those simple time-based phrases. The first thing I do in the afternoon, I usually dedicate my mornings to.
Yeah. So the key is being able to shift your verbs based on your profession, but you keep that clear chronological flow. That's what makes you sound fluent and incredible.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've covered the what and the how. Now for what I think is the most engaging part of this whole pitch, the part that really reveals personality, the why.
The motivation. What's your favorite part of the job?
This is where we move beyond just logistics.
And this needs some depth because motivation really dictates, your commitment to a role.
Mm.
And the sources distinguish between two types of drivers here. Intrinsic, so internal fulfillment,
Yeah.
and extrinsic, the external payoff.
Okay, let's go back to the designer. Their motivation seems heavily intrinsic.
It is. They talk about finding fulfillment and being creative and coming up with new ideas. They love the process of experimenting with colors and fonts and images to make something totally unique.
The language there is all about a personal state. I find fulfillment in, or I love the process of.
Right. The extrinsic reward, the payoff, is secondary, but it's still there. The reward is the satisfaction of seeing a client immediately approve the final design. A great feeling.
Sure, and the teacher. Their intrinsic motivation is all about seeing human growth.
Yet the joy comes from watching students improve. When they finally understand a difficult topic or they start speaking with more confidence, they use phrases like, it's incredibly rewarding when.
Or, I feel most motivated when I see.
Exactly. And their extrinsic reward is maybe less tangible. It's often related to the professional community or their impact on society. Something like, the reward is knowing I contribute to someone's future success.
So it seems like no matter the job art, teaching, even system maintenance, the strongest, most compelling answers are the ones that link the daily action back to some internal sense of purpose.
That's the universal truth the guys really highlight. When you're describing motivation, don't just say, I like my salary. Articulate that personal connection.
Like, I find fulfillment in solving complex problems.
Or, I enjoy the challenge of constantly learning new programming languages. That elevated language is just so much more persuasive, so much more engaging.
Okay, so to help you apply all of this immediately, we need to finalize the toolkit. We've got to break down the essential structures that form the backbone of that 30-second pitch.
We'll cover 5 foundational structures for simplicity, and then we'll introduce a few more advanced ones for, a more professional audience.
Let's start with the basics, the ones you absolutely have to master. Number 1, the simplest identifier.
That's I'm a job. Quick, efficient, good for informal settings.
Okay. Number 2, adding a little context about your current role.
I work as a job. This works really well for contract roles or agency work. I work as a graphic designer.
Number 3, this one is useful for networking, describing the sector you're in.
Right. I work in industry. For example, I work in educational technology. This keeps the conversation broad, opens the door to different roles in that field.
Good one. Number 4, focusing on your primary function.
My job is to task. So, my job is to teach English, specifically test preparation. It defines the core purpose of your job.
And finally, number 5, which emphasizes responsibility, maybe some managerial duty.
That's I'm responsible for task. So, I'm responsible for creating designs for clients and managing the junior team's workflow.
Okay, so those are the 5 foundational phrases. But how do we elevate that? What if you're talking to a supervisor or a really high-level networking contact?
Absolutely. You need structures that convey more expertise and ownership. Let's think about 3 advanced structures.
Okay.
First, when you're describing deep knowledge, use this. My expertise lies in area of specialization. That immediately elevates you beyond just a simple job title.
I like that. What's second?
To discuss processes in a large organization, the passive voice can actually be really useful here. Something like, process is overseen by my team.
Oh, that's interesting. So data security is handled by the IT department that I manage.
Precisely. And third, for describing high-level tasks that are more about strategy than daily routine, try, I oversee the deployment of technology strategy. It shows command. It shows strategic thinking.
So we've got 5 foundational phrases, 3 advanced ones. We really want to encourage you to take these 8 structures and just practice. Substitute your own professional details into them right now.
That active application, that's what turns this knowledge into an actual skill.
So to quickly summarize this deep dive, we've established that successful professional communication is about more than just vocabulary. It's about strategy.
We've armed you with the framework to introduce your job specifically, detail your routine with specialized verbs, and articulate your motivation with persuasive language.
All building toward that comprehensive 30-second pitch. And knowledge is most valuable when you apply it. So we want to hear you practice. This is your chance to make this conversation a two-way street.
That's right. So here's the challenge for you, the listener. Using the structures we just shared, draft your own 30-second professional pitch.
So specifically, we want to know 2 things. What you do for work and what is the single most rewarding part of your day. Try using that high-level motivation language. Maybe something like, I work in industry and I find fulfillment in specific outcome.
And this raises, I think, a really important question for your own reflection. Take a moment and honestly assess the language you normally use. Does it focus on trivial tasks? Or does it capture the true meaning of your work?
Use these new phrases to really articulate that meaningful purpose.
Mm-hmm.
That is a fantastic challenge. Thank you so much for tuning in and trusting the deep dive with your learning journey.
Keep practicing these crucial skills. We'll see you next time with another deep dive into the information that matters most. Goodbye.